Hello, Charis, and welcome to the Rosa Talks Ball podcast.
Hiya, thank you for having me.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I think I've got a lot of exciting things on this weekend, so quite looking forward to having some time off.
Good to hear. Now, to start with, how did you get into cricket? Like, what was it that made you pick up a bat for the first time?
Yeah, so this is actually quite an interesting story. So before cricket, I did competitive gymnastics. Um, and that it was my whole life. Like my parents would tell you I'd go anywhere and I'd just like start doing a backflip or start. Do you know what I mean? I just it was my life. So the thought of not doing gymnastics anymore, and I left the sport for my own personal reasons, but I I had this like hole that I needed to fill, and I took some time off after leaving the sport, and then they were running a lunchtime cricket club at my middle school, and that's how I got into playing cricket. I just thought, wow, if I go to this lunchtime club, you got to go to the front of the queue for lunch. So if I and the queues always took so long, and now I know because of my ADHD that like queues is one of my triggers, like waiting my turn for things. So
Yeah.
um I think that's probably the reason I started playing in the first
Do you think,
place.
you think that's quite a unique one?
Yeah, yeah.
You probably get the award there. And then what made you think, okay, this is something I really want to take seriously and take further?
I'll be honest, I didn't start watching cricket till quite recently. So I just played it and didn't really have many examples to go off because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do it my way. Um, and then I went to go watch England women at New Road, I think in 2017 or 18. Not sure. Might even be, yeah, 2018, I think. Um, I can't even remember who they were playing, I'll be honest. And I went and I was like, okay, this is actually quite cool. Like, I quite like this.
I like watching cricket.
Well, not so much the watching, but I just quite like the environment here. So yeah, I'd watched that and I thought, oh, well, I'm actually going to try to take this seriously, not really knowing the pathway and how how things worked. So I just kept trying at club level and then continued continued from there really.
And then when did Worcestershire and Sparks come knocking? Like, when did that start?
Yeah, so I'd only started playing cricket for I'd probably say about 6 months at this point, and they were short for a county game, and I got a phone call saying, "Can you be in Wales tomorrow for 9 a.m.?" And I was like, "What?" And this was actually for the year above, um, like the age group above me, but I didn't know that at the time. But I went there, held my own, and it started from there, really.
So it was kind of just go and give it a go, see how it goes, and then look where you are
Yeah,
now.
Sparks from the Sparks point of view, that was that's probably 2 years later. Like I only got onto obviously there was like the RDC stuff before, but I had no idea about that. I wasn't involved with any of that stuff. And then when Sparks first started, obviously the academy setup was announced and I got invited for trials. And then from there, really, I attended all the trials. To be honest, not thinking I'd be successful. So just thought I didn't really see the bigger picture of what they were looking for. I just used it as an extra net and went to it thinking, oh well, they're good coaches. I might learn something from it. And then to my surprise, I got selected onto the academy, and it's kind of gone from there, really.
So not your most conventional journey, but coming from a logistical point of view, what were you like when you started playing? Did you just think, I'll have a go at everything? I want to bat, I want to bowl. Were you put on a certain path? How did that come about?
No, I did everything. So if I could bowl the ball, hit it, and do you know what I mean, catch it at the other end, I would do that. But I think when I joined the Sparks Academy, that's when we kind of fine-tuned the path that I was going to take. Because before then, if do you know what I mean, for a Worcester game, if we were short like, for a keeper, I'd be like, I'll do it. It'll be fine. Um, so I think yeah, when I joined the Sparks pathway, that was when we really focused on me bowling spin and batting.
And you're very good fielding.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we jump forward quite a lot to January this year, where just a small matter of an under-19 World Cup. Where were you when you got that phone call, and were you expecting it?
No, I wasn't expecting it. I was at home. I was actually, I think I was sat in bed and I just got up. I'll be honest, I think it was about midday, and that is not really like me, but I was just in one of those places where I was like, well, it's like the end of the season, we're in the middle of the winter, and I don't really know what I'm doing. Going through that, I was at the end of the season and it was about October time.
So it was quite
Um,
an early.
oh no, it probably was September actually.
So it was very early that you knew. So quite a while before the tournament kicked off.
Yeah, yeah. So it was September time. Yeah, at this point I dropped out of school, so I didn't have school to attend. So I was kind of in a stage where I didn't know what I was doing with my weeks. Like I just kind of play it by ear, which at the time like I did need in terms of that like mental break from that. And then I got the phone call from Richard Bedbrook, and my first thought was actually that I was just going as a net bowler. Like I was just going to the camps just to, do you know what I mean, to bowl at them and to get them ready to go away. And then he turned around and said to me, like, no, like, Paz, you're actually going and you're in the squad. And that was a bit of a surprise because obviously, do you know what I mean, I didn't expect that to happen, especially in such a short journey that I've been on with cricket. It was almost like a big fast track into this is how quick it can go. It's a shock, really.
Sure, it was your first kind of experience, I guess, of okay, I can actually do this. Like, this is viable.
Yeah, I think that's when I did realise like if I stick at this, I think this could actually be my job. So that was it was actually nice to know that other people believed in me, and believed in me for the things that have naturally come from me. Almost like no one's had to change things about me to get me to that point, but I was there off my own merit.
I mean, prior to heading out, how were you feeling? What were you expecting to get from the tournament? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Where was your head at?
I'll be honest, I don't put any pressure on myself in a new situation like that. I didn't know what I was going to expect. We didn't know what really our roles were in that team. We didn't know if we were going to be playing. We were kind of waiting to see what the conditions of the pitch would be like and the conditions out there to whose game suited it better. So, yeah, I think that was, yeah, I didn't put any expectations on myself and almost took everything out there as a bonus. Do you know what I
I
mean?
mean,
I
it
didn't think
was
at the start of the year I would be selected to go to a World Cup. So, and I think I remember speaking to her about this and saying that it wasn't, that was never in my plan. If you had told me that was happening, like I never, even at the school games, which were effectively used as trials, I probably had the worst school games I've ever had. And I think it goes to show that it's not just about one performance. Yes, performances help, but they can kind of see past that stuff.
I mean, I remember when you told me, and you were just completely shocked. You didn't really understand it, but your performances back up why they picked you for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I just think it was really about, I mean, if it comes off on the day, it comes off on the day, but that's just cricket. It's a big game of luck, isn't it?
And then going into that World Cup, you definitely got your chances. You were ever present apart from one game in the last game of the group stage. But it was kind of the team started incredibly with two huge wins against the West Indies and Indonesia, but you hadn't really had your chance to get out to the middle yet. And then you
Yeah.
had your chance against Zimbabwe. So what were you thinking as you went out to bat?
Yeah, so obviously I hadn't got a chance to bat in those games, so I was a bit nervous in terms of almost what was I doing in the team if I wasn't batting. So that almost there was a bit of nerves and anxiety around that because I wasn't bowling at that point, so I was effectively there to field and to bat if we got to a position that we needed it. So yeah, obviously you're naturally quite anxious about selection and how the rest of the tournament's going to go. But I think like we played so well as a team that actually upon reflection that almost I'm glad we didn't like I didn't need to bat. It shows the strength in the team that we had and that I mean we got to the position we were in because of the performances from the rest of my teammates. So actually I think selfishly you look at it and you're like, oh well, I could have had an opportunity, but you're thankful and you're pleased for the rest of your team that I didn't need to get to that point.
And then you get to the end of the group stages, 5 from 5, absolutely breezed through it all, and you reach your Super Six. What was the attitude within the group? How were you all feeling heading into that game against Ireland?
We were so confident, but we also recognised that we were lucky actually that we had probably more information on the girls from Ireland than like some of the other teams because do you know what I mean they've got a similar setup coming through and access to the same information as we do. So we were still like confident and we were confident throughout every game and we really believed that we could do it. But we obviously realised that it was still a big challenge. Fact that that was still a big game and every game that we're going to play at this competition is a big game. And we need to play to the best of our ability. So I think going into that game against Ireland, I'll be honest, I can't really remember the match itself, but I know that it was, well, we ended up winning that game.
I can
And
tell you that you scored 207 for two and bowled them out for 86, so it was quite a victory.
yeah, so quite a good game. 270 for two. What that was, yeah.
A
Scribs
lot
had a
of
field day,
runs.
didn't she?
I think it was the game where Grace Scriven scored 95.
Oh yeah,
I may
yeah,
be
I
wrong.
do remember that.
And then we jumped to the semi final and against Australia. And my first bullet point just says, wow. I mean, first of all, what was the game plan heading into that game?
Yeah, similar to the Ireland game. Like obviously we have a lot of information on the girls from Australia because they are probably in the same position in terms of technology and analysis that we are. It was a very similar playing field, especially with the team that Australia picked and the team that we played. So I'll be honest, on paper it was a 50-50 game. Um, and obviously to be bowled out for 98.
Very close, 99.
Oh, I just thought it was that. Yeah, to be bowled out for 99, you're looking at this going, this isn't good here. Like, this isn't looking good. But I think, like, as a team, we talked a lot about belief and the power of yes, yes, yes. And actually, Stanley did this thing where if you say yes, 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 but you don't say it like you mean it, you almost don't believe it. So I think we went out into that game and everyone believed that we could do this. And that was the big difference. Because you look at 99 all out, 100 to win, and off 120 balls. Do you know what I mean? Statistically, you've got a very small chance. But a couple of quick wickets. They had a bit of a collapse in the middle. And then there was a period where they actually held some girls dotted up and just sat through overs, and we're like, oh, we need some wickets here. And there was the moment where they needed one to win and they had one wicket, and Scriff's like, I'll do it. I'm gonna bowl this. And I was like, okay, Scriff, like we back you 100% here. And she's like, it's all right, I love bowling to a lefty. And she's like, I remember her grabbing the ball and she's like, it's all right, it's going to be a wicket. We don't need to panic about this. And then it goes straight through the gate and she's bowled it. And I just think that level of confidence, some might say arrogance, but the confidence that we all had in that game just shows the level of the cricket we were playing and the attitudes that were almost unleashed in that tournament.
I mean, I remember I was sat in the lesson and I had it on, and the effort it took to not react to this game of cricket was something else. And I remember when that final wicket went, and it was kind of a moment of they've actually done it. Like, you have that belief, but Australia started so well,
Yeah.
like they looked like they were going to do it easily, and then suddenly you grabbed it. It shows what the game of cricket can be like.
Yeah, like obviously I do believe it is a game of luck with a bit of skill involved. Like, it's just you've got to control what you've got to control, and sometimes pitch conditions, weather, there's loads of things that don't go in your favour, but that is cricket, and you've got to accept that. You've got to accept the cards you've been drawn.
For sure. And then obviously you made it to the final and it didn't go as you would have hoped. But what were your overall takeaways from that tournament? How was the experience for you?
I think for me personally, obviously it's an opportunity that at the start of the year that was never in my plan. But I think coming away from that, it really made me understand more about who I am as a person and who I am as a cricketer as well. You learn so much about your game, watching other people, seeing what they do, seeing how they react to certain things, and I wholeheartedly believe that is the most growth I've done this year in terms of having a month away and just taking the opportunity to speak to new people, get to know different people, and that I can't recommend that enough for people that want to learn about themselves and grow. Just take the opportunity to get outside your comfort zone a bit.
Someone has asked who your standout England player was from that tournament.
For me, it was Niamh Holland, I think. Do you know what I mean? She got 40 odd, then she got 50 odd, then she got a quick 30. And it just shows really the class that she has and was able to back it up with continued results. And she always does everything she can for the team. So I think, yeah, very underrated person that will go a long way.
You finished that World Cup. You're heading into 2023 domestic season. What are your expectations off the back of that World Cup heading into it?
Yeah, it's funny actually because at the start of the year, before we went to South Africa, just after Christmas, I wrote down what I wanted to get from this year. And I just went through this with Laura and Lloyd at my appraisal. And my goals for this year were to play for Sparks first team once, to play every academy fixture, to play, do you know what I mean, to score, I think it was to score 106 50s. And I think there was one about, there was one about keep pushing myself physically. So yeah, those are my goals for this year. So upon reflection, actually, I've probably only done, do you know what I mean, I've smashed the Sparks one, I think, to make my debut in T20s and 50 over this year, and then to play quite regularly is something I'm really thankful for. And then with regards to the academy stuff, as a result of me playing in the first team, I haven't been available for many academy fixtures. And then I think I've managed to play one Worcester game this year and a couple of 18 stuff. And that's really it, to be honest. And then in terms of the runs across all levels, I think I've smashed that target anyway. So I think, yeah, it's been a successful year for me personally, but one that I think I've still got a lot of learning to take from. So
Building on that Sparks first team and your debuts, your T20 debut, how did you find out? Were you expecting it?
no, I wasn't expecting it. I found out on the morning, um, honestly about 10 minutes before team time. And I went to Jules, our physio, and so I was like, Jules, my knee's really hurting, you know. She was like, no, it's not today, Pav. It's not today. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, she was like, trust me, it's your knee's fine today. And then Lloyd comes on to me, he's like, Pav, you're in. And I'm like, oh right, okay, cool. Um, so yeah, that was a bit of a shock to be honest, because I was getting everyone's drinks ready for the game, and yeah, then suddenly I'm playing. So
And how did it feel to finally get to put on that senior Sparks jersey for the first time and represent?
obviously I've been dreaming about that day for quite a long time since I joined the Sparks Academy, and you don't realise that like then's going to be the day and that's going to be the moment, so you can't plan for it. So it was almost oh right, like Bristol's where it's going to happen. Cool. And that for me was quite nice actually, that it almost wasn't at Edgbaston, it wasn't at anywhere. I quite like Bristol because it's like it's a small ground, and I think it's a nice place to make your debut. It's not as large a scale as anywhere else, so it feels quite homely.
And then you come off the back of the Charlotte Edwards Cup, you make a couple of appearances in that, and then you go from high to high when you're handed your 50 over cap.
Yeah, again, a bit of a shock. As to be honest, I think going through my plans for the year, I think T20 was the one I wanted to tick off. I think 50 over could have taken a bit longer, but then to secure a place in that team and start in the 11, that was another shock.
It must have also been nice to make your debut at New Road as a Worcestershire player.
Yeah, I think it does just calm your nerves, and silly things like people get annoyed by the bells, but to me that's home. And do you know what I mean? You hear them and you're like, okay, like this is fine. I'm glad it was there. And I think, obviously, being a pair, there's no better place to do it for me. And to say that I made my 50 over senior debut at New Road is a privilege.
Didn't disappoint either. You scored 33 from 36 in that first game against Thunder. And then you come into your second game against South East Stars to bat. Sparks are in a bit of trouble at this point at 121 for 6. And then you and Izzy Wong casually put on a 102-run partnership. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, I think that obviously that day you're looking at the score and you are a bit nervous, and I'm sat next to Iz and we're we're looking at it like, okay, like I'm in next, I've got my helmet on. It's just something I do just to get ready. And my helmet's on, I'm like, okay, I could go in at any point here. And then the wicket falls. And I go in and I forget who was at the other end actually at this point. I'm not sure. But I go in and it might have been KG actually. And then I go in and I love batting with KG, and she calms me down. She's just like, just watch the ball. Like, just watch the ball. So watch the ball. I think I had a ropey start, but it's allowed, so I didn't get out. And then spin comes on, and that's where, to be honest, usually I'm a bit like, oh, okay. Because statistically, me against spin isn't as good as me against seam. So spin comes on, and I don't know, I just started hitting the gaps, and the score keeps building. Then Wongi decides to tee off at one end, and next thing you know, we've got a 50 partnership. Then it gets to 100, and then we're like, oh, we've walked off here and we've finished. Like, the game's done, and we're in a much better position than we were in. So then I think, like, as a team, we have a lot of confidence in bowling sides out anyway, and I think with our bowling attack, whatever score we put on there, we are confident that we can defend. But then to get the extra 100 runs, I think that was a turning point for that game. And I think backed up by KG, Wongi, and like, especially I remember KG, I think she got 3 for that game. Like, they bowled excellently. And just to go and win that game from the position we were in was, honestly, it's quite special. And I think it built a lot of confidence in myself that I can secure a spot in this first team, and I can perform at this level.
What a huge personal milestone, that match as well, with your first senior 50. That must have been nice.
Yeah, I think it is just icing on the top of a cake, isn't it? To get the win and to reach that myself. But obviously, like, as a team, we managed to beat Stars and go ahead of them in the table, which that was the highlight of my day.
Off the back of that, you're heading into the 100. Now, is that something that you were expecting? Again, how did you find out? When did you find out?
Yeah, so I actually found out about the 100 really early on. So I found out in about February. Um, so I knew I'd got that coming in August, but I didn't put any pressure on that. Again, I was going to look at it the same as the World Cup and go through how how the World Cup played out, and just take it with every opportunity that I get. So for me, there was no expectations, no pressure to perform in that, and just take every opportunity with open arms. So I think that's what I did.
And then you head into the first game, representing Phoenix, I should say, against Superchargers, and you're handed your first cap. Were you expecting to get that chance so early on?
No, I think, if we're being honest, no, I didn't think that would happen. But I think I'd bowled well in training before. Never played a 100 game before. Um, like never, even at club, like I just didn't know what it was about. So to play that, to play in the actual 100 on my first time playing the game, it was a bit like, oh right, okay, so 10 balls is up. Now we swap. Because sometimes, like after the five, I'd just be running around. I'm like, oh no, we're still here. Um, so yeah, it was a great day, and I think I didn't really expect to get that opportunity early on, but again, I just took it with open arms and see what happened from there.
And then not only do you make your debut, you are tossed the new ball. How were you feeling with that opportunity?
Yeah, I was ecstatic actually. I think not only to play in my first 100 game, but to open the bowling in my first 100 game, that's I think it just shows like the confidence that my teammates had in me and that Eve had in me. And that's something that, do you know what I mean, I'll forever be thankful for. And I probably didn't bowl as I wanted to, especially the first ball. I think I was just full of nerves. But after that one, I think I bowled okay, pulled it back, and then Rodriguez has played a great shot through extra cover, and almost I look back on it, and in the moment you look at the score and you're like, oh, she's gone for four, another one. Do you know what I mean? But you look back at it, you're like, fair play, like that's that's a hard shot, and she's just pulled it off like effortlessly. So you just take a sec back to think about it, and you're like, I'm playing against the best players in the world here. Like, if I was, in terms of a personal growth point of view, if I was already on their level, I just, I wouldn't get much from that. I think to have those learning opportunities and to have the great opportunities that I had during that campaign, I think it shows me how much I need to do and how much I want to do to be in a better position next year.
And then you come on to the second game of the tournament against Originals. You're handed another appearance and the ball again, but you're not just bowling to anyone, you're bowling to your Sparks teammate, Amy Campbell. How was that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier. I think you know how people tick, you've had hours and hours of watching. I've had hours and hours of watching Cambo bat at the other end and bowling to her in the nets. So that was easier for me to process and almost strip back the crowd, strip back everything from that and just focus on me versus Cambo. And that was a lot easier to do that game.
You then missed a few games, but you came back against London Spirit and you got that first wicket. That must have been a really nice feeling.
Yeah, I think I didn't put any pressure on taking X amount of wickets or bowling so many balls. I think going into, like I said, going into that competition, it was more about seeing what opportunities came and taking them with open arms. So when I got the chance to bowl, I just tried to put it, do you know what I mean? Tried to bowl it and make sure they were hitting the stumps every ball. And then that was that was the one that hit the stump. So I think I couldn't ask for more than that. It was nice to get a wicket that game. But unfortunately we didn't win. Um, but personally it was nice to get my first wicket for the Phoenix.
I mean, it was an overall difficult one from a team perspective, the tournament, but what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, I think we came together so much as a team that tournament. And you have to. Do you know what I mean? You have two options. Like Soph did this great talk actually on you have two options when things are going like this. You try and pull something from it and you fight with everything you've got left in you to try and put us in a position to get a win, and so we're still in it, or do you know what I mean, you could just give up now. And I think we try to come together, and we did fight with everything we had, but on the day the opposition were better. And if you look at the margins we lost by, I think we lost 4 games with the space of 15 runs in total. So, do you know what I mean? I think that's the hardest thing. We're not getting smashed. Do you know what I mean? Where it's the small margins, and and you think back and you're like, should I have run a 2 there? And should I have done this? And that's the hard thing, because you go through that and you replay it all in your head saying, what could we have done here? So it did help bring us together, but I think it's not the tournament we all hope for, but we know where we went wrong and we know what we need to work on, and hopefully next year we're going to be back even stronger.
And somebody has asked, which players did you learn the most from, and what was it that you learnt?
Yeah, so on the first training session, Ben told me to go bowl at Soph, which obviously I just watched. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. Just watched Bakes bowling at Soph, and she's just sent it into the second row of the Hollies, and smashed into the the water thing, the water machine, and it's gone straight through, and the ball's sat in the water. And Bakes is
That's
like, "Oh,
brilliant.
right, cool, like that's massive." And then obviously I've just seen that, and Bakes has got a picture by this water fountain with soap, and a ball's in there. And then I come on to bowl at her, and I was like, "Oh, right, okay." Takes me an over or so to warm up, and then I'm into it. And I think the main thing was for me is it was a battle between me and Soph. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of anything else, it was me versus her. Like, do you know what I mean? She's one of the best players in the world. Like, how can I pin her down? I mean, what can I bowl that's going to get her out here? So I think we had lots of conversations on plans and my plans to certain people and what areas I want to cut off. Because obviously when you've got players that can hit it 360 and over any size boundary, you've got to think, actually, where am I okay to be hit? So whether that be I'm going to let them, do you know what I mean, I'm bowling in the power play and I'm going to have long on and cow out. And that is the area I want you to hit me. So if you try and go anywhere else, I'm winning, because there's a chance then you're going to get that wrong. So yeah, it was more about from back in my plans and, do you know what I mean, back in the confidence that I have naturally, and just going with it, just taking everything in and enjoying it.
For sure, it really was a breakthrough season for you from a lot of perspectives. But what's next? What are your ambitions for next season? What are your broader hopes?
I'll be honest, I'm trying not to think about next year too much. I think it's quite easy to not turn off from cricket if you keep thinking about what's next, what's next, what's next. You end up on almost like a treadmill, and you just keep spinning around, and then you don't know when to get off. So right now I'm just enjoying my time off, spending time with my friends outside of cricket, and doing things for me that make me happy. So like, I'm a big foodie, so I like going out for brunch and stuff, and actually spending time coaching kids. That's where I get most of my passion for cricket. So I'm just doing that, enjoying the now, really, and seeing what happens, and then I'll think about the summer later in the winter.
You recently had an interview with E.B. Ashton for the BBC about your ADHD. For anyone who is listening who hasn't read it, would you like to explain, I guess as brief as you can, obviously it's not an easy one to make brief, what you spoke about?
Yeah, I just spoke with Evie about my journey through my ADHD and how it impacts my cricket and my life, and how, to be honest, I'd urge people to get diagnosed. And reading up on the symptoms is quite easy to ignore because you just think, oh, they're their child, they'll grow out of it, and they'll it's just behavioural issues. And I just urge people just to try get a test if they can. I know I do appreciate that it isn't as straightforward as that, and it is a long process, but it is the best thing I did, getting diagnosed. So yeah, it was really just about my journey through my ADHD and how it impacts my cricket and how I want to help people that also have it.
You mentioned earlier on that you dropped out of school when you were 16.
Yeah.
Was your ADHD at that point, I think undiagnosed, the main catalyst for that?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Um, I think for me, I really struggled, not academically in school, because I academically I could do it. Just I just thought I was lazy. Like, I just thought, how can I be an athlete and be this lazy with stuff that I don't want to do? And everyone was telling me like, well, you can do it, and you can, but I physically couldn't do it. Like, I just couldn't get myself out of bed to go to something that I didn't want to do. And I sat down with my parents and I said, like, I'm not happy. I'm not. This isn't how I want my life to be. And obviously they were against it to start with. Because they were like, well, you need to be in education, Charis, and you need to get your A levels so that you've got a backup plan for cricket. And I said, don't get me wrong, Mom, I love you, but this isn't how I want my life to go. I don't want to go to uni, regardless of whether I did A levels or not. I think the whole thing around uni is self motivation and doing. Do you know what I mean? You've got to do the course. If you want to do it, you've got to do it yourself. There's no one, do you know what I mean, standing behind you, pushing you along. And that's hard for me. Like, I need that, especially when it comes to stuff that requires like writing, and especially writing. To be honest, if I could speak to someone about my course, I'd be fine. But writing about it and putting the effort in that way, that just never sat well with me. So I ended up dropping out of school, and we kind of went from there with figuring out what the next plan was. But for me, it was just about making sure I was happy in what I was doing and making sure I was doing things for the right reasons.
We have had a lot of questions from people who have read that article about your experiences and would like to know a bit more. So the first one is, how did your diagnosis come about?
Yeah, so my my ADHD never got picked up in school, which I think it's rare because actually it was so obvious. And then I later found out that people, like close family friends that were, I mean, medical professionals, did know I had it, but they just thought as a family we weren't telling anyone because we didn't want people to know. And that was hard for me because we've had, like, I'll be honest, I wasn't the nicest to my parents, like growing up, because I just didn't know how to be nice to myself, let alone to other people. And that was hard going through that and just not understanding why all the time. So yeah, I think when I finally got diagnosed, it was more about okay, this is a relief. This is what I've been needing to hear. Like it's not just me, like there is actually something wrong with me. So I mean, because you just think it's in your head. You think you're like, I'm fine here. Like, why do I need to act this way? Like I shouldn't, I shouldn't be like this.
I guess there's a stigma about how it doesn't make you normal.
Yeah, I think, like I said, like I'm the same person now as I was. I just have a bit more thinking time now around things, and it is that thinking time. Like whereas before, like, I just would say everything how it is, and that caused me to get in a lot of trouble and a lot of arguments with people. But that is just who I was. I didn't know how to change that, and people just thought that's who I was, so they didn't realize it was ADHD.
Off the back of that diagnosis, what support are you now receiving within your cricket, outside of your cricket?
Yeah, so I still see some of my ADHD. But Sparks actually got me diagnosed. They they were the ones that said to me like, I think you should get a test. And that's when the pieces kind of clicked together, like, oh well, maybe you have got it, maybe. And the more reading that me and my family did, the more we were like, oh, actually, this sounds really similar and like familiar to the experiences we had as a family. So that that sparked the diagnosis, really. And then from there, I've had continued support from our science and medical team around my management and really just making sure that I'm okay. Because I'll be honest, the medication doesn't have the best side effects sometimes, and how we can work around that to get the best out of my cricket and get the best out of me as a person outside of cricket, and making sure I'm still okay when I'm not playing.
For sure. I mean, building on that, what sort of styles and coaching methods are used to help you within your cricket, with your engagement and your overall understanding of it?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge for me is the winter. The summer it's easy because you're playing cricket. I'm driven. I want to win. Like that is my focus. And whether that's winning personally and getting better personally, I see that as a win, or winning as a team in a game. I think there's more. I think it's just when I'm in the winter, we've worked on stuff like when we're explaining a drill. Do you know what I mean? Keep it short and sharp. Don't make things too complicated. Don't make almost have one outcome from it. This is if you can do this, this determines your success or failure. Don't think about anything else. It's you're trying to get out of it this. Do you know what I mean? If I was trying to hit it straight and I was then worrying about my hands and my head and my this and my that, well, like, have you hit it straight? Let's just focus on that. So that was a big thing because naturally, because of my gymnastics background, I put a lot of pressure on myself to get things right all the time, which cricket, like especially in the winter, that doesn't happen. So yeah, we've just worked on different styles that for me it was about how I was spoken to as well. And I needed to know the reasoning behind why I was doing things. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. Which, do you know what I mean, it sounds a bit princessy, almost like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. But if I can't see the reasons behind why we're doing things, I just won't understand it. So now there's a clear plan, especially on my S&C stuff. Let's say we're doing box jumps for 6 weeks because we need more power for this shot, for this, do you know what I mean? For my fielding, for this, for that. So yeah, we do that and we also try and keep things keep things new and engaging. Because if I do things that are too similar all the time, I won't engage with it. I'll just go through the motions, which I think, to be honest, applies to everyone. So that's not just a me issue. But yeah, like my gym programs are always different. In terms of training, like I do similar drills, but they're never the same. Don't use the same equipment because then it feels too going through the motions, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. What was it that led you to go public about your ADHD, about your journey?
I'll be honest, like I've always been very open about the experiences that I've had with my ADHD. And I think the main the main things I was very open with my teammates about it. And if anyone ever asked me, I wouldn't hide it from them. I would always tell them that this is who I am and like it doesn't make me any different. And then I'll be honest, the opportunity came through Sparks to do this interview. Um, and I said, yeah, like I want people to know that they're not alone with it because it can be quite isolating and you can feel, especially like I had quite a lot of issues with like making friends because people were like, oh, they just didn't get it and they just thought, do you know what I mean, I was rude or this or that, and it it's not easy. Like it isn't an easy thing to go through by yourself, but I think I wanted to be that person that says to kids and adults that it it's a real thing, and just because you have the label doesn't mean you're going to be unsuccessful. Like it's how you cope with it.
What has the reaction to you been like since? How do you deal with any negative reactions surrounding your ADHD?
I'll be honest, I there has been negative reactions, and I'll be honest, I just feel sorry for the people that don't understand it because that's all it is. People just not understanding it. Um, Maybe because they've had a different experience with someone with ADHD and they haven't got to know them, that they've just seen the other side of it. Um, but it doesn't bother me, the negative reactions, because it is a lack of understanding. And everyone's ADHD is different. So my experience might not be the same as someone else's. It's not a one size fits all diagnosis. It's it's a spectrum, isn't it? So how how much someone is on that spectrum correlates to how badly they have it and how much they struggle with the symptoms.
So we have had quite a few questions come in
Okay.
from listeners. And the first one is, do you have any pre-match rituals?
Yes and no. I think, yeah, I think in terms of, I'm not superstitious at all. I'm very much, if it's meant to happen, it will. Um, I usually I've changed my breakfast actually. It used to be eggs, it's now Wheetabix. Sorry, everyone. So I have two Wheatabix on a normal day, three or four on a game day. Which I mean is quite hard because I have to have it in two twos. Otherwise they go too soggy and I just don't like them. So it's just a first world problem, but it's my problem. So they go too soggy, so I have to have them either really quickly or just one at a time.
Brilliant. I think a lot of pre-match rituals have something to do with food.
Yeah.
Are there any players who you would really like to play with? It can be men's, it can be women's, it can be current, it can be former.
No, I think I've played with the people. Obviously, there's a whole host of people that I would love to play with, but I'm thankful for the people that I have met so far. And just taking things as they come. I think if you're meant to meet someone, you will meet them. So if our paths cross, our paths will cross. So yeah.
Very philosophical. I like it.
Yeah, Gandhi.
How do you think your teammates have helped your development during your time in Sparks Academy to now playing for the senior side?
Yeah, so Arlotte's helped me a lot actually. I think she's known me the longest. And going from, do you know what I mean, this little kid at Worcester to joining Sparks Academy, she was always saying just don't get bored, Pav, keep going and almost trust the process and go with it because you've got a big future ahead of you. You just need to keep following the path. And I think that was helps me a lot anyway. Like we go out for breakfast at Good Roots quite a lot. And we just have a little monthly mothers meeting. It's great. But I think, yeah, helps me a lot. Cambo helps me a lot with my ADHD. And then actually our support staff, I don't think they get as much credit as they deserve because they have to deal with all of us behind the scenes 7 days a week. Do you know what I mean? If we're upset, you go to them. If we're happy, you go to them. If you're, do you know what I mean? Just a bit emotional, you go to them, and they they help you more than you realise, I think, at the time. But a team wouldn't function properly without great support staff. So,
Would you rather take a fiver or make a century?
make a century.
That was an easy one for you to decide on.
Fifers are great, but you get so many opportunities to bowl, but you only get one chance to bat.
That's very true. I think I know what the answer's going to be to this one, but I'll ask it anyway. Edgbaston or New Road, and
New
why?
Road. New Road. Because it's New Road, I just don't know why you'd mention Edgbaston. I just think, do you know what I mean? To me, that's asking me to choose between cheese on toast or dog poo. Like, I just think cheese on toast is just the best meal ever. So,
Oh,
yeah,
Edgbaston.
sorry, but New Road. It's in terms of stadiums though, Edgbaston is my favourite. But grounds, New Road.
Fair enough.
I think that was quite a unbiased opinion.
I also think that was quite an. I mean, you could say it was and it wasn't. I mean, you're Worcestershire through and through. Of course, you're going to pick New Road.
Exactly.
Building on that one, are there any parts of the world or specific grounds you would love to play at?
The SCG.
Can
Yeah,
I
I
ask
think
why?
I really want to play in Oz. That's definitely on my cards the next few years. And to be honest, just to go and see like the scale of this place. And yeah, if I got to play there, even better. But even if I just went to go have a look round, I think that'd be great.
And then we've got the last two, and these are a little bit deeper. Who is/was your female sporting role model?
Simone Biles still is, to be honest. Just think if you can if you can take anything from her, it's the discipline she has to be the best in the world. And in my opinion, why would I do something half-heartedly and not try and be the best in the world? So that, for me, that is, yeah, it's always going to be Simone Biles.
Nice one. And then, do you have any advice for young cricketers who want to make it pro?
Keep going. And to be honest, don't change the things about you that have got you to where you are already. They've got you there for a reason. Keep being you, and you'll get picked on your merit anyway.
We do have a short quiz about you and also your
About
team
me?
and teammates. Yeah, about you.
Oh, right, cool. Okay,
Okay. Most of them are multiple choice,
that's good.
apart from the first question.
What's my name? That would be great.
Who did you make your Sparks and Phoenix debuts against?
Oh. T20, it was Western Storm. And then you've told me this. It was 50 over, it was Thunder. And then Phoenix, it was Superchargers.
Well done. A lot of people wouldn't have got that.
I wouldn't have got that unless you told me. But yeah, thank you.
It's a little bit harder now.
Okay.
How many runs did
Oh.
you score from 550 over innings in a Spark shirt this season? The options are A, 115, B, 110, and C, 105.
115.
Oh, close, 110.
Okay, well, I like to think I'm better than I am, but it's okay.
Only two Sparks players have higher averages than you this year.
Oh,
So
do
that's
I have
quite
to
a nice
name
stat.
them?
No, that was just a piece of information for you. I can tell you who
Okay.
they are.
Yeah.
I've got Jones squared, so Amy Jones and Eve Jones.
Right. Yeah, fair.
Question number 3. We spoke about this. What was your highest score at the Under-19 T20 World Cup in South Africa earlier this year?
Oh.
Was it A,
Oh,
40, B, 35, or C, 45?
45.
Correct.
Thank you.
From 26 balls against Zimbabwe. Now, the last two questions get a little bit more difficult,
Great.
and they're about your team/teammates.
Okay.
How many boundaries did the Central Sparks score in all competitions this year? A, 349, B, 256, or C, 456?
350 something.
Yeah, correct. And then the fifth and final question. Your Sparks teammate and fellow spin bowler, Georgia Davis, was the top wicket taker in this year's Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy. But how many wickets did she take across formats?
Across all formats.
In terms of Sparks, for Sparks.
Okay, have you got ABC?
Yeah, don't worry, I'm not sure. I'm not going to
Okay.
make you guess this one.
Okay.
A, 29, B, 38, C, 45.
38.
Correct.
She's just so good, isn't she?
She's very good.
And as well, she had a broken finger for most of that, so I think she'd be on like 60, if not.
And she was massively top wicket taker in the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy.
I'm not surprised.